Snara's back again. This is my Ninja Gaiden 4 Master Ninja walkthrough with Yakumo. And this is Chapter 2, Haunted District. And for the most part this mission is actually pretty easy. It feels a lot longer than it actually is. So while we're just in this grind rail section, I want to break a couple of things about before in the last video after I reflected on it and just watched back to make sure the commentary was okay. The comparison I made between the DDO commander and a Souls boss, what I really meant was just you had to play defensively, you had to be a bit more careful with your planning, and that didn't really fit the fast-paced and aggressive nature that Yakumo brings, and even Ryu to a certain extent. But ultimately, I don't think this is a bad thing because Ninja Gaiden bosses have never been all that great, and the DDO commander is definitely a big step up. On these grind rail sections, you'll find that sometimes, even when you jump to a rail, you've got a train coming right at you and you've got to jump to the next one, you know where you have to go. The best thing you could do is just aim towards it and keep spamming whatever button you have to jump to them, because some of those grind rail sections are so bullshit where they only allow you to jump to the next one. That's what made Chapter 12 so infuriating, when it tells you that you had to go through the entire mission without failing on any one of those sections where you're like falling through the air or going on your little surfboard or grind rail sections, because there's so many of them and that's the longest mission in the game by far. Before then, where I avoided those enemies and jumped up the wall, I wouldn't recommend skipping them because they're not that hard to do, and you've got a whole darkness terminal there where you can stock up on your items that you maybe used against the DDO commander. And there goes me being an idiot. If you stand on those drones too long, they'll blow up and fall down. I love doing that to enemies. So funny. A couple of other things as well. First of all, the more observant of you probably notice that I lower the volume greatly in the background so you can focus on the commentary, and a lot of the combat noises are just ambience, but that the audio is out of sync. That is true. This seems to be a common problem when it comes to PlayStation, because these aren't live recordings, these are old video clips I had of when I was doing the recording at the time. And I know that there's a way you can fix that with sync offset and all that, but because all this video editing and microphones and all management and all that sort of thing, this is all very still new to me. And going forward, I wanted to move to PC because I think Sony's fucking me around too much and just all the bullshit they've been up to, and it's kind of hard to imagine and hard to believe, but people were right when they said PS5 has no real games, because most of the games aren't very quality. I mean, to a certain extent, The Last of Us Part 1 and Ghost of Tsushima are the only ones that are worth owning on PlayStation 5, but they came to PC not too long after the fact. And I only say The Last of Us Part 1 because while I do enjoy the original and the remaster because it has everything put in there, and Part 1 doesn't have any multiplayer, and I love the multiplayer despite how broken it was. Yeah, I examined it very carefully, and I don't care what people say about how it's lazy, blah blah blah. As someone who has played that story to death, and has well over 1,000 hours between the story and the multiplayer collectively over the last 10 plus years, believe me when I say this, I think the remake is much better designed than the original remaster is. But that'll be more of a topic to discuss when I get around to eventually doing a grounded walkthrough, and maybe even a grounded no upgrade walkthrough, because I'd be keen to do it. But anyway, back to Ninja Gaiden. So yeah, it just comes down to the fact that I spent hours and hours messing around with the audio settings, and I can't fix the delayed audio. And I know it can be fixed. I'm just so tired of having to go through all these different solutions and nothing works. And because I'm moving to PC anyway, and I've still got a few games on PlayStation I want to cover before going to PC if I can help it, or there's a whole lot of PS2 games I want to eventually cover. I have to look more into emulators about that, because again, this is something that's new to me. This is something I'm willing to put up with. I know it's very professional. Sorry about all that. But, I think you guys are getting a decent enough experience with this, and you're getting everything that you need, and that's what's important now. By the way, this fight here on this bridge is very, very tough. It actually is. But because there's so many opportunities for you to throw the enemies over the edge, the only real problem you will have is if you have multiple enemies on screen, the soft lock will take the enemies you guillotine throw and throw it towards them. There's that breakdancing move I talked about. It's not so bad, but it could still fuck you, and it also brings more of those jetpack enemies in the game, and they have those little drones around, so you can zip up to them, and then you can just push square to bounce off of them and start attacking the enemies in the air and doing Izuna drops. But I hate the flying enemies, not because they're dangerous, because they're not really, but the assassin's tools are really good for knocking them out of the air, but you have to get close enough to be able to do a lock on. They can hit you from a good distance, but you have to get closer just to throw these things. And it's so annoying. Can't stand it. But yeah, look at that, we're halfway through the video pretty much already, and I haven't really talked about too much about what's happening in this mission. That's because it's not that hard of a mission. It's a fair bit shorter than the last one. And I'm pretty sure if memory serves me correctly, the next mission is even shorter. But yeah, Izuna drop, or when you're in the air, square, square, and triangle, and then you'll do a kick and send them flying backwards, and to get them off the edge probably a bit more reliably than the guillotine throw, because the guillotine throw, of course, sticks to the lock-on. By the way, the assassin's tools here are terrible against regular enemies on the ground. They're great against bosses for interrupting their attacks and getting some cheap damage in. But even as far as weakening the enemy goes, they're not that great, which is kind of a shame. But the assassin's tool bit... Oh, these things. Now, this guy's got a glaive, I'm pretty sure. This thing's a bastard. He's definitely not the worst variant of these DDO soldiers, but this guy's very dangerous. If you've got a full gauge, get your blood bind up and just do sweeping techniques on him. Because he does tons of damage and he can take you out. I mean, honestly, on his own, he's not that bad, but when he's got multiple enemies around him, he becomes very dangerous, because he can tank so many hits. But you notice already he's tanking way more than just about every enemy we fought, besides the boss. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say in regards to the last video. Well, see, you tried to grab me. So yeah, I apologise if the audio is a little off-putting, but hopefully my commentary is going alright. I think it'll be a long while before I gain the confidence to speak a bit more cleanly like I do in real life. Because in real life, while I am rather quiet, you get me hanging out with my mates, or you get me talking about a topic I'm passionate about, and I just have a hard time shutting the fuck up. But hopefully I can speak more naturally over time. Because even looking back on this audio and just listening to it, it just feels so strange to hear your voice. It's the weirdest thing. But yeah, as far as future projects go, I'll just briefly touch on it, since we've got a bit of a slow burn here to go. Just a couple of enemies here. Guillotine throw them, Izuna drop them, whatever you want to do. Like I've said before, this is this walkthrough, and then I'm going to do all 18 combat trials, mostly because you unlock the opulent pipe after all 18, or at least until you beat number 18. And the opulent pipe improves Ryu's damage of his key attacks and his ninpo attacks, and it costs Ninja Coin, but it's only like 100 or 200, so it's totally worth it, because you can hold hundreds of thousands of Ninja Coin. I thought it'd be way more costly, and it doesn't do too much more damage, but it is enough to make a difference, I found. If you noticed before, the DDO commander, when I fought him and used the assassin's tools and had the wall brew, I did so much damage, about half or more than half his health gone in like just a few seconds. Whereas if you fight him normally without those items, he just takes so much punishment. They all do. So even if on a regular combat encounter, if you're having trouble, just go ahead and use it then. There's plenty of darkness terminals everywhere. But as I was saying before, yeah, playing as Ryu on Master Ninja, getting S ranks, most of it's pretty easy. So that'll be the last I play of Ninja Gaiden 4 until the 2 Masters DLC comes out. Depending on how long it takes to come out compared to when this game released, will affect how big the campaign is, because I'm pretty sure there are adding more challenges, but I don't know how long the actual story expansion will be. Hopefully it's big, and hopefully they give us a nice mix between being able to play as Yakumo and Ryu, because they both got new weapons. Well, I suppose for Ryu, his claws aren't really a new weapon, but Yakumo's getting a scythe, which will probably work similar to how that scythe weapon always worked in previous Ninja Gaidens. Or at least in Ninja Gaiden 2, perhaps. And after that, or at least in the middle of that, I'll also be doing a walkthrough of Ruby Grim Eclipse on Eclipse difficulty, but running solo, because the game isn't balanced for just playing solo or with multiple people. So if you have a co-op partner that you play with, that you can get on board with and get a copy of the game, because no one plays it anymore. The game's pretty damn old, and, well, people barely played the game a year or two after it came out, but even less so now. And I think the game's pretty fun. It's not a very good game, but I still think it's pretty fun. And no matter how much I can criticize Ruby, I just can't help but love the world and a lot of the character designs. I think Ruby's got super just... It's got so much potential, but it just gets ruined. And then I got God of War 3 on Chaos Mode, as well as the challenges of Olympus and Exile, but Exile being extremely tough. And then after that I'll be covering Eternights, which is one of my favourite games in the last 6 years. Eternights is just fantastic. It shouldn't be by all things considered, but yeah. Okay, serious time. This is the Proto-Goliath boss. He becomes a regular enemy at some point during the game, but I don't think he has as much health as he does here. And he's a bit of a cream puff, honestly. The enemies surrounding him are the biggest threat, because he does so much damage, and that attack right there, that did hit me. And it does so much damage and covers such a wide range. You can challenge him and block him on just about everything, but when he does those moves, he electrocutes the floor, and it got me. And it's hard to see because of how it contrasts with the background on the floor you're standing on. It's hard to tell where the electricity is sometimes. But yeah, this boss is not that hard to deal with. This will be a little bit of a rough encounter, but this fight can go a lot more smoothly than you realise. In fact, if anything, you can just sort of ignore the enemies on the side, dodging when you have to, but focusing only on the boss. It's definitely an option. Use the drones to get up to the guys flying around if you have to. Take them out first if you want to. These enemies will keep spawning until their numbers run out and the boss dies, so you can't just kill the boss and end the encounter, you've got to do both. And I'll just quickly bring up some other projects as well, because on Eternights I'm going to beat the game on expert mode, but the game's super easy on expert, I think, because I played it so much and I'm just so used to it. That's a great dodge right there. But that's also why I'm going to be doing a challenge run with that game, where I go through with no upgrades. Technically, if I want to do all of the fights in the game, I can't do no upgrades. Well, I can for myself, but there's one move that gets upgraded naturally as you progress through the story no matter what, so you can't help that. But at least one of your allies will have their abilities upgraded, but I'm not going to use them. And it's not so bad. There's a couple of encounters I forgot were really bullshit, but I mean, I love Eternights, it's such a great game. And I heard at the beginning of this year that when Studio Side posted, they talked about how the game had like, I think they said 9 million plus downloads after like some sort of storefront somewhere had a big sale. I don't know if that's true, if that many people have really bought the game, but if they have, which I never thought, then congratulations to Eternights, because it's a fantastic game. And it's supposed to be like a Persona-like if you're interested, but on a smaller scale, and honestly, I prefer that. Because I've looked at Persona before, and turn-based combat just doesn't interest me. Its romance system more than anything does, because it's so detailed and so in-depth, I can't help but be impressed. But even when I look up videos, oh, by the way, here, you'll get Berserk State for free, and you just got to chop them up, and whatever gets left behind, just finish up. Yeah, I get put off by just how much there is to it and how long the game goes on for, even as the first time playthrough. It just puts me off. A game doesn't need to be that long to be interesting. That's enough of that. At the end of the month there's a new game coming out called Code Vein 2, and I'm a huge fan of the first one. The second one looks pretty disappointing because it's not what I thought it would be and not what I wanted. But I think it'll be alright, honestly. I'm tired of open world games, but you know, hopefully this is one that'll draw me back in. Anyway, it's enough rambling. Next mission's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, not that long. I'll see you there.